I warned them once, but at sunrise that Saturday, a black SUV with no plates rolled past my no trespassing sign like they owned the place, and four so-called HOA enforcers stepped out claiming they were here to inspect my barn on my land. 5 minutes later, two were on the ground. One was running for his life, and my shotgun made it clear the real fight had just begun. That's how folks online like to tell the story now. Short, sharp, and dramatic. But the truth, well, the truth started quiet. Real quiet. It was just past 7 in the morning, the kind of hour where the world still feels half asleep, and out here on my 80 acres in Lassen County, that quiet isn't an accident, it's earned. It comes from distance, from fencing, from long gravel roads nobody drives down unless they mean to. It comes from having no HOA, no noise, and no neighbors trying to approve the shade of your front door or how often you mow the grass. It comes from a man finally building a life on his own terms after 20 years of serving his country. That morning, I was tossing fresh hay to the horses, the sun low and gold, sliding across the field like warm honey while a little mist held onto the tops of the grass, just enough to make the air feel cool on my face. My mare, Daisy, nudged my shoulder, asking for more than her share, and I scratched her neck, hearing nothing but the breeze and the soft crunch of hooves shifting on the dirt. It was peaceful, predictable, safe, at least until the sound of tires crunching on gravel cut through the air like a knife. Now, that sound alone doesn't always mean trouble. Sometimes it's Jerry from up the road delivering a jar of homemade peach jam. Sometimes it's the mail carrier who refuses to walk the half-mile driveway. But I've lived long enough to know that when a vehicle sounds heavy, slow, and unfamiliar, your body feels it before your mind registers anything. I stood there for a moment, pitchfork in hand, listening, and the crunching wasn't hurried, wasn't casual either. It had the rhythm of people who believed they had a right to be wherever they were going. And that right there put a twist in my gut. I wiped my hands on my jeans and made my way toward the front gate, and before I even reached the bend in the road, I saw it. A black SUV, glossy as wet ink, sliding down my driveway like it belonged here. No front plates, no rear plates, windows tinted so dark I could see my own reflection staring back. And then, like the scene was playing out in slow motion, the SUV rolled right past my no trespassing sign without hesitating, didn't even tap the brakes. I muttered under my breath, well, that's not a good sign. I've dealt with trouble before, overseas, in training, and sometimes right here at home. And trouble has a posture, a smell, a way of moving. This SUV and whoever was inside it radiated that same kind of tension. But here's something important you should know before the story goes any further. I'd prepared for this day long before it arrived. When you buy land next to a growing HOA like Silver Creek Ranch, you learn quickly that not all neighbors come with pies and welcome baskets. Some come with clipboards, rules nobody voted on, and ideas about future development plans that don't include your name anywhere. So, I'd installed cameras, one at the gate, one facing the barn, one tucked under the porch roof facing the path. Not for decoration, but for days exactly like this one. As the SUV slowed to a stop on my property line, right where the gravel turns darker from years of hoof prints and tractor tires, I felt everything inside me settle, calm, solid, and ready. Not angry, not afraid, just steady, the way Marines are trained to be when something's about to break loose. I didn't know who they were yet, didn't know what they wanted, but I knew one thing for damn sure. They weren't here by accident, and whatever they thought they were about to do, they had picked the wrong ranch to do it on. For a few seconds, nothing happened. The engine hummed, steady, like it was thinking. Then all at once the doors opened. First came the thuds, heavy boots hitting my dirt with an attitude, and 3 men got out almost synchronized, like they'd rehearsed it. Big guys, thick necks, navy blue shirts with some embroidered emblem on the chest. Not law enforcement, not contractors, something in between, something pretending to be official. Behind them stepped a woman, mid-40s, blonde bob cut, so stiff it barely moved in the wind, wearing a tailored blazer, clutching a tablet like a shield, and wearing sunglasses that didn't belong on a ranch at sunrise. She stood there with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her entire adult life, glancing around my land like it was an open house she'd been invited to, until she finally spotted me. Her smile was polite, the way a snake's tongue is polite right before it strikes. "Good morning," she called out, voice bright but brittle. You must be Mr. Drake. I didn't bother smiling back. Depends who's asking. She walked toward me, clicking across the gravel in heels no sane person would wear out here. I'm Karen Seaford, disciplinary coordinator for the Silver Creek Ranch Homeowners Association. I let that hang in the air for a moment. Silver Creek Ranch was half a mile up the hill, rows of manicured lawns and identical beige houses that looked like they'd been printed from the same suburban copy machine. New people moved in constantly, and with them came rules and meetings and more rules. I'd never attended a single meeting, mostly because my land wasn't in their HOA. Not now, not ever. Ma'am, I said, arms folded. You might want to take another look at where you're standing. This here is private property. Oh, absolutely, she said brightly, waving a hand dismissively. But your parcel lies within our designated visual influence buffer zone. I blinked once. My what? She tapped her tablet. Silver Creek is expanding. Future development plans require aesthetic consistency along all bordering properties, particularly those visible from planned Phase 3 lots. Ah, there it was. The slip, the motive. Not the horses, not the fencing, not the smell of hay. They wanted the land. Or at the very least they wanted control over it. Karen continued, swiping through her screen with the confidence of a woman who expected applause. We've received several community complaints regarding unauthorized fencing, unregistered livestock structures, and visual disruptions inconsistent with Silver Creek's long-term community vision. I raised an eyebrow. Visual disruptions? You mean my barn? One of the men behind her snorted. The big one, shaved head, shoulders like a refrigerator, took a step forward and scanned my property like a guard dog. Karen lifted her chin. Mr. Drake, this area is designated for evaluation. We're here to perform an exterior compliance inspection. No, I said flatly. You're not. She blinked. Excuse me. You don't have authority here. I pointed toward the sign they had blown past. In fact, that big red sign back there means none of you should even be standing on this dirt. One of the men, the tallest of the three, let's call him Tall Guy, laughed under his breath. Sir, we're authorized to inspect perimeter structures on behalf of the HOA. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You folks lost? I asked. Or just ignoring reality on purpose? Karen held up her tablet like a shield again. We have two possible pathways for resolving this. Option 1. Voluntary integration into our HOA that would grant you voting rights and access to compliance waivers. I stared at her. Ma'am, I bought this land at a government auction. This land has never been in any HOA. She cleared her throat. Option 2. We escalate daily citations, building code enforcement, and if necessary, petition the county for demolition orders. I let out a long, slow breath, not because I was intimidated, but because I suddenly understood the shape of the storm rolling toward me. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a random visit or a simple case of HOA overreach. This was strategy, pressure, a first step in a bigger plan. Behind Karen, Tall Guy drifted toward my porch, raising his phone like he was filming evidence of a crime, while the other one, let's call him the third man, tugged the chain on my barn gate, rattling it hard enough that Daisy inside tossed her head in alarm. That was enough. I took one step forward, voice low and steady. You've got 5 seconds to walk back to your SUV. Karen didn't flinch. She actually smiled. We're here in an official capacity, Mr. Drake. No, you're trespassing. I cut her off. You're on private land with no authority, touching structures you don't own. The big guy with the shaved head took another step toward me, puffed up like he planned to grab my arm. He didn't know me, didn't know what I'd done for a living, didn't know that on my own land I wasn't about to let anyone lay a hand on me. But he was about to learn, and so was Karen. The moment the big guy grabbed the barn gate, something inside me tightened. Not anger, not yet, more like a switch clicking into place. A marine thing, a rancher thing, a this is my land thing. Tall Guy on the porch held his phone high, zooming in on my boots, then the porch rail, then the horses, as if each frame added weight to whatever report they were planning to file. His hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but excitement. People like him love moments where they think they're in control. Meanwhile, the third man kept yanking the chain, making it rattle against the metal hinge, and that sharp clanging scraped across the quiet morning like a blade across glass. Inside the barn, Daisy snorted anxiously, hooves clacking against the floor. That did it. Nobody rattles my animals. Not out here. Not on my dirt. Karen didn't notice the shift in my posture, or maybe she noticed and didn't care. She lifted her chin, adopting a tone that probably worked on frightened homeowners living in beige houses. "Mr. Drake," she said, voice crisp, "we will now proceed with an external compliance sweep per Silver Creek's community expansion plan." "Ma'am," I cut in, "you're not proceeding with anything." She sighed as if I were a stubborn teenager refusing to take out the trash. "We have jurisdiction under future zoning modifications. Your property is considered visually impactful too." "There is no future zoning modification," I said. "Not for my land." Karen smiled again. That tight-lipped kind of smile you only see on people who think you're not smart enough to understand the trap they're setting. "Oh, it's not finalized yet," she said. "But it will be. We're simply making sure the transition is smooth." Transition, expansion, buffer zone, all of it code. All of it pieces of a plan they thought I'd be too slow to notice. Behind me, the gate clanged again, harder. My temper nudged forward an inch. The big guy with the shaved head took another step toward me, fists clenched like he was warming up for something stupid. "You think you can stop us?" he muttered. "We're authorized to inspect." "No," I said calmly. "You're not." He snorted. "What are you going to do? Call your cows out here to help?" The other two laughed. Karen didn't. She flicked her tablet. "Mr. Drake, if you refuse cooperation, we will note you as non-compliant. Last chance to work with us." "Last chance," I echoed. "For you. Walk away." One of the men cracked his knuckles. "He's bluffing." Karen didn't look at him. "Proceed." That one word, proceed, was enough for tall guy on the porch. He hopped up the steps, shoved his phone almost into my face, and barked, "Step aside, jarhead. We're going inside." That was when I spoke the sentence that shifted everything. "You're 5 seconds from regretting this decision." Karen rolled her eyes. "We're not here for threats." "Wasn't a threat," I said. It was a countdown. Tall guy reached for my door handle. My door, like he had the right to walk into my home. I stepped toward him with my hand low, not in a fist, just ready. I caught his wrist midair, twisted, and drove my shoulder forward. His phone flew from his hand and smacked the deck boards with a crack. He yelped, but he didn't finish the sound because I pivoted, using his own momentum, forearm to elbow, and his legs came right out from under him. He hit the porch rail on the way down, breath blasting from his lungs, the sound of his fall echoing across the yard. The big guy with the shaved head roared like a bull and charged. He wasn't fast, but he was heavy, and heavy can be just as dangerous. He swung wide, armed like a battering ram. If I'd stood still, he might have taken my head off, but I didn't stand still. I stepped right, hooked his wrist, and let his weight do the work. Marines learn early that force beats force, but leverage beats everything. His body stumbled forward like a runaway truck with no brakes, and I guided him past me, planting a knee between his shoulder blades as he went face first into the dirt. The third man, the one at the barn gate, froze. His hand dropped from the chain. He stared across the yard at his buddies sprawled out like fallen fence posts, and funny thing fear does. It stops people like a stun grenade. His boots stayed rooted in the dirt. Karen finally snapped out of it. "Stop! Stop!" she shrieked, voice cracking like thin glass. "You can't touch them. They're authorized personnel." I looked at her, still calm, still steady. "No, ma'am," I said. "They're trespassers." "You assaulted them," she screamed. "They tried to force their way into my home," I replied, lifting my knee off the big guy's back. "And you told them to proceed." The third man, suddenly remembering he had legs, took a cautious step backward, then another. Then he broke. He bolted toward the SUV like a deer hearing the first crack of hunting season, fumbled with the door, and practically fell into the vehicle. The engine revved hard, tires spun, and he was gone. Karen spun on him. "Do not leave. We are not finished here." But she didn't have control anymore. She never did. She just thought she did. The big guy staggered to his feet, glaring at me like I'd insulted his ancestors. His left arm hung wrong. Nothing broken, but nothing working right either. He took one step toward me, testing his chances. I didn't raise a fist, didn't raise a voice. I just stared him down with the same look I'd used on recruits who thought they were 10 feet tall and bulletproof. He stopped. His jaw tightened. His eyes dropped. That's when Karen exploded. You are done. Do you understand me?" You assaulted my staff. You resisted inspection. This is illegal. You're going to jail, mister. Enough, I said calmly. She froze, shaking with fury. This is private land. You came uninvited. You ordered your men to open my barn, step onto my porch, and film inside my home. That is not. It's all on video, I said. Gate cam, porch cam, barn cam. Every second. Her face drained of color. Karen trembled, pointing her tablet at me like it was a weapon. You're finished, she spat. When I'm done with you, you won't own a single inch of this land. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just said, ma'am, you need to leave right now. But she didn't move. She just stood there, breathing sharp and uneven, her finger jabbed at me. I will have you removed from this property by force if necessary. I took one slow step onto the porch toward the wooden cabinet tucked beside the doorframe. You stay where you are. Karen yelled. I didn't answer her, didn't have to. I opened the cabinet. Inside sat a coil of rope, a dented toolbox, and my old 12-gauge pump-action shotgun, oiled, polished, and waiting like an old friend who never forgets a promise. Not pointed at anyone, not brandished, just present. I lifted it gently, respectfully, muscle memory doing the rest. The moment my hand wrapped around that walnut stock, Karen's expression changed. All the arrogance, all the smugness, gone. And when I worked the pump, Jack, the sound echoed across the entire yard. There's a reason folks say that's one of the most feared sounds in America. The big guy with the shaved head froze mid-step. Tall guy quit trying to stand. Even Karen's tablet dipped an inch. You can't, she whispered. You're threatening us. No, I said firmly. I'm protecting what's mine. And I'm making sure nobody here does anything stupid. I held the shotgun low, angled safely toward the ground, finger nowhere near the trigger. It's an act of warning, ma'am. One I hope you take seriously. The big guy shuffled backward, clutching his injured arm. Let's just go, he muttered. Karen whipped her head toward him. No, we finished the inspection. There is no inspection, I said. Not today, not ever, not here. She opened her mouth to argue, looked at the shotgun again, and closed it. She backed away slowly, one shaky step after another. Her face twisted into something between fury and fear. You'll regret this, she hissed. The SUV door slammed shut, and the vehicle peeled away, fishtailing through the pines like a scared animal. And just like that, the yard was quiet again. But I knew better than to think it was over. People like Karen don't retreat, they reload. I lowered the shotgun, placed it back in the cabinet, and made the call. Lassen County Sheriff's Office, I said when the dispatcher answered. This is Russell Drake. 3 unidentified individuals and 1 female entered my property without permission. There were threats, attempted forced entry, and 2 are injured. I'll be right here. 15 minutes later, Deputy Bill Myers rolled up. I've known Bill for years, quiet type, good heart. He listened to Karen screaming about assault, looked at her tablet, then looked at me. You got footage? He asked. I played it for him. The trespass. The orders to proceed. The scuffle. Bill whistled low. Ma'am, Bill said to Karen, I've known Russ a long time. If he wanted these boys hurt, they wouldn't be sitting upright right now. From what I see, your team trespassed and attempted forced entry. That's on you. Karen sputtered. I will file complaints. You do whatever you feel you need to, Bill said, climbing back into his cruiser. He tipped his hat toward me. Russ, keep your cameras running. Folks like this don't quit easy. He was right. For about a week, things went quiet, uncomfortably quiet. Then, the certified envelope showed up. Kemp and Doyle, attorneys at law. Inside were 4 pages of accusations, aggravated assault, emotional damages, visual sabotage of community aesthetics. They even included a screenshot from my own security footage of tall guy lying on the gravel, claiming I humiliated him. I laughed, folded the papers, and called Julia Rich. Julia and I served on the same base years back, when she was JAG. Sharp, fearless, better at paperwork than I ever hoped to be. HOA trouble? She asked when I told her. That's the worst kind. Send me everything. Deed, maps, zoning. 2 days later, she called back, and her voice had that electric hum she gets when she finds a weak spot in the armor. Russ, you need to sit down. I pulled the zoning records for Silver Creek Ranch HOA, the original ones. Your land was never in their jurisdiction. Not even close. They'd have to cross 2 surveyed boundaries and a federal easement just to touch your fence line. I figured, I said. No, Russ, listen. The map they submitted to the county, it was altered. The metadata shows the file was modified after county approval. Someone manually extended the boundaries to include your ranch. It's fraud. Sloppy, arrogant fraud. I rubbed my jaw. Karen, Julia confirmed. Pride doesn't make people forge maps, Russ. Money does. They sold investors on an expansion plan they didn't own yet. This changes everything. We're not just fighting a lawsuit. We're filing for injunctive relief and malicious trespass. Do it, I said. Julia filed the motions, and the HOA panicked. They started a smear campaign online, posting lies about my dangerous agricultural hazard zone. But then, a miracle happened. Someone leaked the full, unedited video of the confrontation to a local community page. The internet did the rest. Veterans groups, ranchers, local news. Everyone saw Karen ordering her goons to attack an old Marine on his own porch. The tide turned fast. And then, the defector arrived. I was drinking coffee on the porch when a battered Ford pickup rolled down my driveway. It was Jeff Slade, tall guy. His shoulder was taped up, his face bruised, but his eyes were different. No swagger, just shame. Mr. Drake, he said, standing by his truck, hands open. I just want to talk. I'm done. With Karen, with the HOA. She's throwing us under the bus, saying we went rogue, that she never ordered us to touch your gate. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. It's all on here. Texts, payment records, voice memos. She's not careful when she's angry. She told us to make you feel outnumbered. She told us to escalate if you resisted. I took the drive. Why give me this? Because I'm not letting that woman take my freedom to protect her pride, Jeff said. He paused. And Mr. Drake, you didn't have to go easy on us that day. Thank you. I nodded. Go home, Jeff. Julia will contact you. 3 days later, we were in court. The hearing was packed. People love a showdown. Karen walked in looking frayed. Hair pulled too tight, the pearls gone. When Julia presented the evidence, the forged maps, the internal memos, approached dominant, record confrontation, and Jeff's testimony, the courtroom felt like a powder keg. Judge Catherine Muller, a woman with glasses built for detecting nonsense, looked at Karen. Miss Seaford, do you dispute this testimony? Karen tried to speak, but nothing came out. The court finds, Judge Muller said, her voice like a closing door, that the Silver Creek Ranch HOA engaged in unlawful trespass, falsification of zoning materials, and malicious intent. The claims against Mr. Drake are dismissed with prejudice. The court grants the plaintiff compensatory damages in the amount of $20,000, paid by the HOA and Miss Seaford personally. The gavel banged. It wasn't a cheer that went up, it was a sigh of relief. Karen sat there, staring at the table, finally understanding that some things, land, authority, dignity, can't be stolen. A month later, I stood by my front gate with Joe, the metal worker from town. We bolted in a new sign, heavy steel, cut with precision. Armed, trained, private. And right at the bottom, in small engraving, not in your HOA. Joe laughed. Think that'll keep him out? Yep, I said. But at least I'm a legend on my own land. The gate swung closed, the wind brushed across the field, and for the first time in a long while, the ranch felt exactly like it was meant to. Quiet. Steady. Mine. So, tell me, what would you have done? Would you have let them inspect the barn just to keep the peace? Or is there a line in the dirt you just don't cross? Let me know in the comments. I'll be right here, reading them from the porch.